This is the formal lab on determining the percent composition of silver in a dime. The experimenters are Darren Deng and Kevin Lee from Period C. Before the lab, some past knowledge is required to be aware of what is happening during the lab. Some key points include silver can turn into an ion by losing an electron, and in that state it will be dissolved into the solution. For this experiment, an acid will be used to ionize the silver. Silver can leave the solution when it's bonded with chloride. This silver chloride compound is insoluble and will precipitate out of the solution. To calculate the percentage composition, the molar masses of silver and silver chloride will be required in dimensional analysis to find the mass of silver in the silver chloride compound. The actual percentage of silver in a dime will be needed to calculate the percent error in the experiment. The main purpose of the experiment is to calculate the percent silver of a 1945 dime, and before looking at the actual composition, we predicted that the percent composition will be about 75%, because in past decades, coins had a higher content of valuable materials in them. First off, weigh and record the mass of the dime. Our datum was unintentionally measured in newtons, but that was taken care of with a simple conversion to grams. Next, the dime needs to be in a test tube for the experiment to proceed. After that, add in an excess of nitric acid. The amount of acid used is insignificant, but make sure that there's enough acid to dissolve the dime. And remember that the acid is a dangerous chemical and goggles should be worn at all times. After that, the dime should take a while to dissolve. Make sure that the gas from the reaction is ventilated because it can, like the acid, be harmful to humans. A fume hood will suffice. After it's dissolved, pour in excess of salt into the solution. This will create another reaction and will leave a precipitate. The precipitate will be isolated by using a filter as shown. When the solution cools down, it means that the reaction has stopped. When that happens, filter the solution. This makes the amount of nitric acid and salt used obsolete because both compounds are soluble and will wash down the filter along with the water. Washing the precipitate is highly suggested so that most of the soluble ions are filtered through. Let the precipitate dry after filtering. Once dry, zero a scale and a weigh boat on and scrape the precipitate on the boat. Record the mass of the precipitate. This is the raw data for our experiment.
So to find the initial mass of the dime, we must first convert the amount of newtons which we got was 0.00829, and we will get 0.845 grams. Next, we have to write out the net ionic equation, which is Ag plus Cl minus, and we get AgCl. To find the mass of the silver from the precipitate, we must first find the mass of the precipitate, which is AgCl, and then through stoichiometry, we can see that the mass of the silver that is produced is 0.725 grams. To find the percentage of silver in the dime, we have to do the mass of the silver divided by the mass of the dime times 100%, and we get 85.8%. For the class, most of the class got under in the range of 80 to 90% silver. For our error analysis, because we know that the actual dime composition is 90% silver and 10% copper, we know that 90% times 0.85 grams, which is the mass of the dime, equals 0.7605 grams of silver. Therefore, taking our yield of silver, which is 0.725 grams, and we subtract 0.7605 grams of silver divided by 0.7605 grams and multiply by that by 100%, so we get 4.67% error. Some possible explanations for this are that some precipitate escaped or the scale malfunctioned. In conclusion, the results were fairly successful because the lab produced almost all the silver that was used in the dime. However, our hypothesis of 75% was not supported. In the future, we can implement methods for identifying other substances or develop a method to identify the copper side of the dime, which is the 10%. And also, in order to improve the precision and accuracy, we can improve the procedure and materials. Lastly, we'd like to acknowledge Mrs. Zizmor for buying the dimes and the materials to do this lab.